when JD is humiliated by a judge who is crooked and anti-Trump. When he is in court, Vance believes that he is above the law. When, however, his victim engages in a fight back, karma strikes with lightning speed, leaving the whole courtroom in shocked stillness. But before we get started, I'd want to know where you're viewing from. Please let me know in the comments. In the federal courtroom, the day began in the same manner as any other, with the exception of Judge Marshall Davis's exceptionally awful disposition. He yelled at his clerk, "I told you there would be no coffee in my courtroom," which caused the young lady to begin to quiver. In addition, I will be filing charges of contempt against their defense team if they do not appear within the next 2 minutes. Davis went to his seat, his face already red with fury, and the gallery was filled with people watching him storm there. Recently, his conduct had gotten more unpredictable, particularly in instances involving conservative characters. His reputation for severe treatment was well known, but in recent times, his behavior had become increasingly erratic. Please allow me to respectfully inform you that Vice President Vance has arrived for his testimony. The court clerk approached with caution. Immediately, Davis's demeanor became more gloomy. That is very remarkable, isn't it? Not even making an effort to conceal his scorn, he sneered at the person. Ensure that he is aware that this is not the floor of the Senate. It makes no difference in my courtroom what his title is. There was a discernible change in the atmosphere when Vance came in. He walked with a calm elegance, nodding politely to the staff members working in the courtroom. With his fingers pounding nervously on the bench, Davis observed him with the vigilance of a leopard. As Davis made his announcement, his tone was filled with disdain. "Let's get something straight," he said. "It makes no difference to me what position you maintain in Washington. I am the lawful authority in this courtroom. Do you understand that, Mr. Vance?" It seems like Davis was even more irritated by the measured reaction that the vice president provided. "No ambiguity whatsoever, Your Honor. Quite simply, I am here to serve as a witness to the truth." "Is it true?" Davis laughed in a mocking manner. "We'll have to figure it out." The defensive table became the focus of his attention. "It's time to get this circus started, shall we?" For the record, Davis ended up interrupting the opening statement that the defense counsel was giving. "My courtroom is already filled with political theater, and I am getting sick of it." The glance that he gave Vance was quite sharp. It is not a campaign rally at this time. It was another attempt by the defense counsel. "I would want to use this opportunity to inform you, Your Honor, about the charity activities of Mr. Sterling." "In what context?" Davis let out a chuckle with a bark. "Given the circumstances, it is clear that your client is being accused of evading taxes." I do not need a history lesson about the alleged philanthropic activity that he undertook. Whenever the attorney brought out Sterling's services to the community, Davis would interrupt him with an escalating level of animosity. "Not relevant at all. Continue on. I won't give you another warning." The court reporter had a hard time keeping up with the frequency with which his gavel was banged down. Davis's conduct got even more irregular with the arrival of Vance's testimony, which was scheduled to take place. He yelled at Vance, telling him to stand up straight when you take the oath, despite the fact that Vance's posture was immaculate, and make your voice heard. "In my court, I will not tolerate any political doublespeak of any kind." Vance started his speech with a cool demeanor. "I am able to speak to the fact that Mr. Sterling is completely transparent with respect to the Faith and Family Foundation's finances." Davis stopped in a dramatic manner, rolling his eyes, and said, "Oh, here we go." Yet another traditional fairy tale emphasizing the importance of family values. The gallery was agitated in an unsettling manner. As a result of the judge's clear partiality, even the prosecution seemed to be uncomfortable. In contrast, Davis was only beginning his journey. Permit me to make this very clear. A reddening appeared on his face as he leaned forward. Numerous wealthy conservatives have attempted to conceal their wealth by concealing it behind philanthropic facades. Regarding your presence in this room, Mr. Vice President, I am not impressed. To be more precise, it causes me to have even greater doubts about the defendant's character. Despite the fact that Vance maintained his composure, Davis seemed to be even more enraged by something about his cool manner. The judge's hands shook slightly as he sorted through his papers, and his eyes darted anxiously to certain documents that were sitting on his desk. I have here, Vance continued slowly, recorded proof of Mr. Sterling's donations to charity causes, including the meetings that were held by the March Foundation. Davis virtually yelled out that the documents were not allowed to be shown, despite the fact that no objection had been lodged. It appeared as if his response was strangely personal, even panicky. Honor, the counsel for the defense appeared before you. What are the reasons why you are? Do not even think of challenging my decisions. Suddenly, Davis's face was a blazing crimson color. If you say one more word, you will be joining your customer in showing disdain for you. There was a noticeable movement in the prosecutor's position in his seat. In this case, the judicial discretion was exercised. This was beginning to take on the appearance of a personal vendetta. Your Honor, Vance spoke out, maintaining a politely strong tone throughout his tone of speech. During the discovery process, these papers were presented in the appropriate manner. Davis scoffed and said, "Oh, were they? Moreover, I am assuming that your prestigious ties inside the White House had nothing to do with it. Permit me to share some information with you, Mr. Vice President, on your sort. Are you under the impression that you can walk into my courtroom using your political power and—" Kindly, Your Honor, I object. The counsel for the defense mustered up his guts. Nothing could be more incorrect than this. Davis yelled out into silence as he slammed his gavel with such force that it reverberated around the room. I am not going to listen to someone give me a lecture about what is proper in my own court. Certainly not from some reactionary puppet and his. In a composed manner, Vance said, Your Honor, perhaps we need to talk about the particular topics that were covered in the meeting on March 15th. The abrupt and noticeable shift in Davis's personality occurred almost immediately. His expression changed from one of wrath to one of something else. Could it have been fear? With the gavel in his palm, he peered at Vance, as if he were seeing him for the very first time. His hand was stuck in midair. They are. He managed to convince himself that such encounters were not pertinent to the processes at hand, his voice suddenly becoming less assured. However, his eyes kept straying to a certain folder that was sitting on his bench. It looked to have been the folder that had arrived that exact morning. Is it irrelevant? He inquired in a low voice. It is fascinating to hear that, Your Honor, in light of the fact that the gatherings directly included donations to charity organizations. Excessive. Both of Davis's hands were smacked down on his bench. If you say one more thing about those meetings, I will remove you from the list now. There was a startled stillness among the gallery members as they saw the judge's composure begin to deteriorate. The papers on his desk were being moved about by him as he urgently attempted to recover control of the situation. His hands were plainly trembling at this point. In point of fact, Davis said, raising the pitch of his voice to a frantic level, at this very moment, I hold you in the highest regard. Do you believe that your post affords you protection? This is nothing more than a Trump lackey dressed up in an expensive suit. Your Honor, Vance seemed undisturbed by the situation. In this regard, my stance is completely irrelevant. That being said, given that you brought up protection, Maybe we need to talk about the protection payments made by the Liberty Foundation." In a split second, Davis's face shifted from being crimson to being white. "Dare you do that? What exactly are the payments? They did not exist. Take heed. Take this individual out of my courtroom today." The officials of the court paused and exchanged uncomfortable looks with one another. Everyone was aware that Davis's actions had gone beyond what was acceptable. "Indeed, Your Honor." Vance grabbed for his briefcase and continued to speak. "The financial records that I have here are really rather fascinating. Would it be possible for you to provide an explanation for the monthly payments from offshore accounts that conveniently line with the verdicts that you have made against conservative defendants? Put an end to it." Davis burst out a yell, utterly forgetting his attitude with regard to the court. "You do not possess any authorities or rights. Right here, I am the law. That would be me, not some conservative scoundrel who—" With composure, Vance displayed a paper. "The fact that you have signed these permission papers gives the impression that you do not endorse this." Even the judge's own staff was taken aback by the judge's first response. He surged forward, pointing a finger that was shaking uncontrollably at Vance. "Those were sewn by you. It is a setup by now. Also, a conspiracy on the conservative side." But it was too late for him to catch himself. A great deal more had been exposed by his outburst than any proof could have. What about a plot? Subtly, Vance reverberated. "Your Honor, you have made an interesting choice of words, particularly in light of the fact that you have secret meetings with some organizations that are activist. Within the confines of my own court, I shall not be questioned." At this point, Davis was so enraged that he was virtually gagging. "Do you believe that you are able to walk in here with your arrogant expression and a piece of evidence?" The last phrase was spat out by him, like if it were poison. "Proof," Vance said in a calm manner, "that demonstrates a worrying trend, similar to the Thompson case that occurred a month ago, in which a proprietor of a small firm lost everything because you refused to allow proof of his service to charity organizations to be presented." The chuckle that Davis made was practically comical, just as it was today. A case involving Thompson. That liar from the Conservative Party deserves to be punished. They are all deserving of it. These individuals believe that they may conceal themselves by relying on their religious beliefs and the morals of their families, while alternately, Vance said, while taking out another paper, that we could talk about the Wilson hearing, in which you unexpectedly sealed all records only a few hours after meeting with members from the Liberty Foundation. An intense twitch could be seen on the judge's face. "How did you come to hear about—" Just as he became aware of his slide, he suddenly halted. "Are you aware of what, to your honor?" "What event is it? The $100,000 that was sent into your offshore account the next day?" The gallery was filled with loud mutterings. Davis began repeatedly slamming his gavel, but each blow seemed to be more frantic than the one that came before it. "I am going to have order, order, and order." The fear in his voice caused it to break. "There is no truth to any of this. It is a conservative scheme to— regarding the case of Mrs. Anderson." Vance would not give up. A grandma who was unable to explain the origin of the money she had saved for her whole life because you refused to let her do so? The fact that the firm that sued her made a donation to your re-election campaign only a few weeks before the election is interesting. Put an end to it. His serenity was entirely gone, and Davis let out a scream. "You do not possess any authorities or rights. Here, I am the law. You? Not at all, Your Honor." The calm voice of Vance was able to penetrate through the turmoil. In no way are you the law. It is expected that you will serve it. It's similar to the time you took the oath of office. When you created the account in the Cayman Islands, it was the same day. Davis sprang up, his robes unkempt, and pointed in a wildly erratic manner at Vance. Guards, have this individual arrested for contempt of court. Now is the time to seize all of those vital papers. What are you eagerly anticipating? Davis let out a yell at the policemen who were hesitating. Your order was given to you. Put him under arrest. In order to prevent them from doing that, Your Honor, Vance spoke out while maintaining his calm. It could be a good idea for us to talk about the reasons for your eagerness to take these specific papers. I don't feel the need to elaborate on who I am to you. Davis seemed to be as if he were a caged animal as he paced behind his seat. I am a judge in the federal court system. Every choice I make is definitive. I have complete and total authority. The concept of absolute power seems to be a recurrent topic with you, Your Honor. Vance responded with serious consideration. When you ordered that all evidence of your private meetings be sealed, just as you did in the Williams case last week, you did the same thing. Davis stopped in the middle of his stride. Where did you get? It was anticipated that such documents would be. Even if he was able to catch himself once again, the harm had already been done. Your Honor, what is it that is supposed to be? What happened? Are you interested in the documents from the meetings of the Liberty Foundation? Excessive. Davis let out a shout, his look of rage contorting his face. Those of you who are self-righteous and conservative believe that you can enter my courtroom and expose them. Suddenly, he came to a halt. As he became aware of what he had nearly disclosed, Vance's voice remained firm as he asked for the specifics of the matter. You may have been getting payments to the systemic abuse of judicial authority, the concerted targeting of conservative offenders, or possibly the funds you have been receiving to. I demanded that there be no noise. When Davis yelled, he lost all control of his emotions. In the process of grabbing his gavel and throwing it across the courtroom, he came dangerously close to hitting his own clerk. Are you interested in discussing the misuse of power? I'll demonstrate how power may be abused. Officers, I want this individual to be placed in handcuffs immediately, and anybody who disobeys my order will be placed in the same prison environment as him. Suddenly, there was an eerie silence in the courtroom. The atmosphere was so tight that even the judge's labored breathing appeared to go through amplification. It was still the case that the cops had not moved, and their expressions revealed an obvious struggle between duty and conscience. Davis said viciously, his voice dripping with hatred, "This is your last chance, Mr. Vance. In the event that you do not hand up those papers and submit to arrest, I will make certain that you are never seen in another courtroom to begin with." Vance said, "That is an interesting threat, Your Honor," while opening another folder. This folder was virtually similar to what you informed Sarah Mitchell before dismissing her discrimination lawsuit. Davis's face became eerily pale immediately after your meeting with James Peterson, the CEO of the company. What is it? Where did you get? Continuing in a calm manner, Vance added, Peterson, who deposited $500,000 into your Cayman account. The same Peterson who hosted that private yacht meeting last month, the one where 7 other judges were present, all of whom mysteriously ruled in his favor the following week. Peterson. Davis let out a scream, spittle streaming out of his lips, and said, "You have no right. These documents are considered confidential. Conversations like that were held in secret, against the law. Are you referring to the recordings that come from your chambers?" Vance asked in a low voice. "Are you referring to the instances in which you specifically instructed your clerk to dispose of evidence that might have cleared 3 conservative defendants?" The cashier, who was still sitting at her desk, wept uncontrollably. As she wept, "He forced me to do it. He threatens to destroy my professional life if I don't." Not a sound. Davis let out a yell, but his power was beginning to erode. Any and all of this is not acceptable, if you can't prove it. Despite the fact that Vance intervened, everything was taken in a lawful manner. Your very own security cameras captured the document shredding that occurred at midnight. The threats were captured on your very own phone. By signing your name, you gave permission for the transactions. Davis moved forward, anxiously reaching over his bench in the direction of the evidence folder that Vance was holding. "I need those files, please. I give you the command to..." Denied the order. It was the rear of the courtroom, where the new voice could be heard. Upon turning around, everyone saw a group of FBI officers make their way down the aisle in the middle of the room. The lead agent made the announcement, his badge shining brightly beneath the lights of the courtroom, that this court is now the subject of a federal investigation. "Stay here, Judge Marshall Davis. You are not going anywhere. You are unable to do this." Davis let out a gasp as he slowly moved away from his seat. "I am immune to disease. I am connected to others. Who am I, if you remember me?" The representative said, "Oh, we are completely aware of who you are, Your Honor. Including your recent meetings with the Liberty Foundation, your offshore accounts, and your concerted attempts to target conservative defendants, among other things." Davis looked around the courtroom in a frantic manner, searching for a way out of the situation. "All of this is a pretext, a well-planned scheme to..." "It was a scheme," Vance said in the background. "It was your continuous misuse of authority and your honor that was the sole storyline in this situation. With today's announcement, every biased decision, every backroom bargain, and every effort to suppress the truth will come to an end." It was Davis who pointed a shaking finger at Vance and said, "You planned this. You, along with your other conspirators who are Trump fans, set me up." Mr. Vance shook his head and said, "No, Your Honor, you have lied to yourself. If you wanted to hang yourself, we simply provided you with enough rope. Through your own words and actions today, you have validated all that we were previously aware of." Davis made one last, desperate effort to keep control of the situation as FBI officers approached the bench with their weapons drawn. "I am a judge in the federal court system. I cannot be detained by you. Yes, I am the law. Yes, I am the law." As Davis attempted to dash at his rooms, the agents were forced to physically detain him despite his efforts. He yelled, "You don't understand any of this. They coerced me into doing it. This is the basis. They have dirt on any and all of them, if I were to speak." The main FBI agent said that this is an intriguing development. "Please provide us with further information on this charity, Your Honor." However, Davis had finally caught himself and realized how much information he had divulged in his state of fear. In spite of the fact that his hands were shaking, he contorted his face into a grimace. "Let me have my attorney. Also, after this is finished, you will all be held accountable for this humiliation." As we were discussing the payment, Vance took the initiative and produced yet another paper. "Would you mind providing any explanation about these transfer records? On the same days that you did, 7 judges were all given payments that were comparable to yours. Any and all decisions made against conservative defendants in instances that were coordinated." Whispers of astonishment could be heard throughout the galleries. There was more than one judge that was corrupt in this case. In its whole, it was a network, Vance continued, his voice ringing over the suddenly hushed courtroom, stating, "The evidence implies that this was a systematic attempt to use the justice system as a political weapon. He said this throughout the course of his testimony. Nevertheless, Your Honor, justice is not intended to be used as a weapon. This is intended to serve as a shield, providing equal protection to all Americans. It was no longer necessary for Davis to struggle against the agents. After the entire extent of his exposure became apparent, he wore a countenance that was a mask of defeat. In the background, court authorities had already begun to lock his rooms in preparation for the inquiry. Officers from the FBI were questioning his clerk at the time, as she revealed that she had been threatened by the judge and compelled to delete evidence. Tears began to pour down her cheeks. The last walk of shame that Davis took out of his own courtroom was a dramatic symbol of justice being carried out. On the other hand, as the agents carried him away in handcuffs, he turned around to see JD for the very last time. It is Vance. Do you believe that this will affect anything? He released a sour spit. Individuals that are similar to me will always exist. But you can't stop all of us. On one point, you are quite correct. Vance responded in a low voice. Whoever abuses their position of authority will always be present. On the other hand, there will always be those who are willing to stand up against them. This is what makes our judicial system function properly. Not the corruption that you are a representative of, but rather the bravery of those who endeavor to combat it. The fallout was immediate and had a significant impact. Following Davis's arrest, a flurry of investigations were launched in a number of other countries. As the amount of evidence accumulated and witnesses came forward, the network of crooked judges started to lose its consistency. Nevertheless, the dismissal of Sterling's lawsuit was possibly the most significant point of the whole process. Upon analyzing the evidence that Davis had made such a valiant effort to conceal, the newly appointed judge discovered that there was no foundation for the allegations, because in the end, those who are ready to defend justice are the ones who determine whether or not justice is administered, rather than those who wish to govern it. Also, if you are someone who believes in standing up for what is right and being accountable, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to get other motivational tales. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.